On this episode of RevHang, Ben and I talk about the MotoGP season finale at Valencia and the Formula 1 Brazilian Grand Prix. Let's do it. Hello everybody and welcome to RevHang. I'm your host Nathan Nevue, and alongside me today is my fellow gearhead and co-host Ben Bagley. How's it going, Ben?
Days are getting shorter, the races are growing fewer, and it's getting far, far colder.
Yes, it's getting that time of year. It's kind of winter, sort of, almost, late fall. The racing season is winding down to a close. We just finished the MotoGP season last week, and we only have one more race left in the Formula 1 season, and then that's it. And then we get to do our wrap-up episode and end the year off with a bang, hopefully. And then, wait for 3 months for anything to happen.
Yeah. Just
fun stuff.
Thrive on rumors until then.
Yeah, I mean, last season was full of them, so who knows. But anyway, let's start with MotoGP. We had the last race, like I said, of the season this last week here. It was in Valencia in Spain. I think there's like 3 or 4 races in Spain over the course of the MotoGP year. But anyway, we'll go through the top 10 in qualifying to give you some context. First off on pole position was Jorge Martin, followed by Marc Marquez, Jack Miller, Fabio Quartararo, and Alex Rins in 5th. 6 through 10 was Maverick Vinales, Brad Binder, Francesco Bagnaia, Johann Zarco, and Aleix Espargaro. We'll just go through this race really quickly. Alex Rins took the lead through the first corner after an absolutely blazing start and led the rest of the race. He qualified in 5th and basically passed everyone before they even got to turn 1. It was pretty crazy. We had a ton of DNFs this race in the form of Jack Miller, Johann Zarco, Maverick Vinales, Marc Marquez, Paul Espargaro, Darren Binder, and Aleix Espargaro. But other than that, the notable talking point is that Bagnaia rode pretty conservatively, didn't get into too many scraps with people, because all he needed to do was score points to win the championship, and that's exactly what he did. He came home 9th place and sealed the championship for himself.
Very nice.
Yeah, the results of the race were: in first place, winning the race, was Alex Rins, followed by Brad Binder and Jorge Martin on the podium. 4 and 5 were Quartararo and Miguel Oliveira. 6 through 10 was Joan Mir, Luca Marini, Enea Bastianini, Francesco Bagnaia, and Franco Morbidelli. 11 through 15 was Marco Bezzecchi, Raul Fernandez, Remy Gardner, Taka Nakagami, and Fabio Di Giannantonio. And then 16 and 17 rounding off the finishers were Cal Crutchlow and Alex Marquez. And then one more time through the DNFs, we had Jack Miller, Johann Zarco, Maverick Vinales, Marc Marquez, Paul Espargaro, Darren Binder, and Aleix Espargaro. So, that was the last race of the MotoGP season in 2022. We had quite a few pretty exciting races this season. Tons of high DNF numbers. We had a couple of kind of damp, wet-ish races. And then pretty awesome comeback from Bagnaia to win the title at the end of the season.
Yeah, it was my first time watching at least part of / trying to watch most of a MotoGP season. And the main names I remember, I'm going to be honest, are Joan Mir and Alex Rins for crashing a lot.
Yep. They did crash a lot.
The rest will come.
Nakagami also had a lot of incidents.
And just such a memorable name.
Yeah. But yeah, we will go through the MotoGP season a little more in depth in our season wrap-up episode in a couple weeks. But as far as the championship goes, it went to Francesco Bagnaia, and so congratulations to him. I think this is his first championship. It's his first championship. Took it away from the defending champ Fabio Quartararo in a pretty tight battle, nothing to be sniffed at. So, good job. Moving on to our paddock news, we've got a couple of things on the list here today. First off, Lewis Hamilton was given an honorary citizenship in Brazil, so he's officially a citizen of Brazil. It's pretty cool. Yeah. I know, I mean, I was talking about last week, I was talking about how much they love him over there. I don't know if I was expecting that, but it's pretty awesome.
Gonna be honest, I thought he already was.
Yeah. Yeah, it wouldn't have surprised me, I guess. But yeah, so now he holds that title, and he said in his post-race interview that he's gonna have to vacation there more now that he's a citizen.
That's the only reason that you would go vacation in Brazil?
Now that he's a citizen, yeah. But he's working on his Portuguese too. But anyway, also in the paddock news from another series we don't talk about much, NASCAR. Joey Logano has won his second NASCAR Cup Series. I don't think he won last year. I think he won 2020.
Yep.
Yeah, that sounds right. So congrats to Joey. Whether you like him or not, I know he's a pretty polarizing driver, as there are a couple in the world of racing.
Yeah, that was a crazy lead up to him getting his championship, because originally it came out that it was a completely different driver who won until after they did tech inspection, right?
I don't actually know the whole story.
I think that was happening. I got most of my news from Reddit.
Gotcha. That's the best news source.
Again, such a great news source. But yeah, I heard there's a little bit of a buzz about that, but I am not proficient enough in the whole procedure with NASCAR races and how they verify weights and all that after the race. So
yeah, I don't know. I might have to look a little more into that story, because that would be interesting if it was kind of another one of those championships won in a weird way. We kind of had a few of those this year. Yeah. So yeah, we'll have to see. Well, I guess we saw how it played out. Logano won the championship, but I don't know the details. I'll have to look into that more.
Yeah. Speaking of not knowing many details, what do you think about Ricciardo moving to Red Bull as a reserve driver?
Well, it's been unofficially confirmed, I guess, is how I would put that. That Ricciardo's going to Red Bull. We've heard from some sources, various sources of various trustworthiness. But I mean, it seems like it's pretty much a done deal. I think, I don't know. I think he made a good choice of going to Red Bull for a reserve driver instead of staying at McLaren as one, because I know they offered him that. But I still think if something happens to Logan Sargent in the last race and he doesn't end up getting his super license, I really think Ricciardo should consider the option of driving for Williams next year.
Oh my gosh.
Well, it's not glamorous, but I would say having an F1 seat is better than not having one.
This is true. Ask Alex Albon.
Yeah, but I mean, he's already stated that he's not going to drive next year, so his eyes are solely set on 2024, which I don't know if that's the right call, but that's the one he's making, I guess. And then also, I guess this is like a impromptu Zoomer Rumor segment. We have an unofficial confirmation that Nico Hülkenberg will be replacing Mick Schumacher at Haas.
Yeah, and after this qualifying in Brazil, spoilers, that's.
Yeah, I mean, possibly. I don't think Schumacher did too bad in the race. I mean, we'll get into that. But yeah, I don't know. I still don't know how I feel about that. I mean, Hülkenberg's been out of the sport for, 3 years now? Something like that?
Well, he had 2 races at the start of this season, remember?
Well, yeah.
He didn't score points in any of them, but to be fair, Stroll also didn't, so...
I don't know. I know Haas wants a consistent driver, and so... I mean, I guess that's an okay choice, but we'll just have to see what happens. We don't even know if that's 100% the case yet.
We can discuss more after we talk about qualifying in the race.
Yeah. So, speaking of qualifying, this is qualifying for the sprint race, and then the sprint race end order sets the grid for the Grand Prix race. So, qualifying on Friday, we had a shocker on pole. It was a kind of an interesting situation. It was wet out, and Kevin Magnussen set the fastest lap, and then got very lucky with some red flag timing. So Kevin Magnussen ended up on pole position, followed by Verstappen, Russell, Norris, and Sainz in 5th. And 6 through 10 was Ocon, Alonso, Hamilton, Perez, and Leclerc.
Just a wild top 10.
Yeah, kind of nuts seeing Magnussen on pole position in a Haas.
Yeah. What incredible timing with the red flag and the amount of rain that got down on the track during the red flag.
Yeah, for sure. George Russell spun off the track on one of his first laps in Q3 after Magnussen and a couple other drivers had already set laps on dry tires. Magnussen's was fastest, probably because it was the driest when he went out. He was the first one in the order to make his run. So Russell spun out, caused a red flag, and then it just started dumping rain, and no one was ever going to improve. So that was the end of qualifying.
Yep.
So congrats to K-Mag on his first qualifying, and congrats to Haas on his first pole position, I should say, not first qualifying. Congrats to Haas for the same thing, their first pole position.
Yeah, hopefully they can get a few more next season.
Yeah, we'll see. But also, speaking of Haas, Mick Schumacher qualified 20th, so you had a Haas in first and last.
Yeah, that's where I kind of got the idea of, I mean, granted, it was very, very special conditions, but if the way Haas sees it, their car is capable of getting to poles now, so the pressure's definitely on. Whether that's under normal conditions or not is a whole other story, but I'm sure from their viewpoint, they have a car that got pole, and then they have another car, same car, with a different driver that got 20th, so.
Yeah, it's not the best look if you're Schumacher.
No, not at all.
But moving on to the sprint race, Magnussen got a good start actually off the line and made it through turn 1 in front, which I was not expecting. He actually led for a solid couple of laps, like 2 or 3 laps. But anyway, later on lap 1, Esteban Ocon forced Fernando Alonso wide into turn 4. Alonso had a little bit of an oversteer snap moment and hit Ocon in his side pod. They kept battling throughout the rest of the lap, and then Alonso ended up running into the back of Ocon on the pit straight. And that tore Alonso's front wing off and basically ended his sprint race. Not great at Alpine. They had a rough weekend.
It was just the start of the craziness that was going to be this race.
Oh, yes. On lap 3, Verstappen made his way past Magnussen into turn 1, and then after that, Magnussen started quickly dropping back through the field. Pretty much one position per lap, it felt like. Back down to about 8th or 9th, I think, is where he ended up. 8th. So, with the drivers that were passing him, I don't think anybody was really surprised, but it was still really cool to see him up at the front of the field for a not insignificant amount of time.
Just another reason to hate sprint races.
Yeah. On lap 9, Lance Stroll forced Sebastian Vettel off the track with a really, really late defensive move. Both drivers were able to continue. Vettel was understandably kind of annoyed. But he didn't seem surprised, which I think is just as telling how everybody feels about it.
The only other within team rivalry that kind of mirrors the Alpine dynamics is definitely Aston Martin, with Sebastian Vettel just watching Stroll continually accidentally sabotage his race.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not great. And then, oh man, dude, Alonso and Stroll next season, I think is going to be one of the most entertaining pairs to watch, because I think it's just going to be an absolute nightmare.
The best part is Alpine is still going to be just as dramatic.
Oh yeah, because Ocon and Gasly hate each other.
Yeah. And
they say they're going to keep it professional and they can put all their differences aside, but not when the red mist goes down in the Formula One car, it all comes up.
Yeah. Have you seen two drivers who are probably more, I don't want to say dramatic, but heated on the track than Gasly/Ocon?
Yeah, they're pretty. That's gonna be another pair to watch, absolutely. And then this race. We'll talk about this in a little bit, but this could also be the beginning of a maybe Checo Verstappen rivalry.
Oh,
But we'll see. We'll get into
Red,
that in a little bit.
Red Bull, Red Bull drama tea.
Yes. So after Stroll forced Vettel off on lap 12, Russell and Verstappen started battling each other, and to be completely fair, this was one of the best battles of the season. Verstappen and Russell they were pushing each other so hard, but they kept it so clean. It was so much fun to watch. I love it when cars are able to battle each other for several laps on end, turn by turn, without hitting each other. Doesn't happen too often.
No, and I guess that is one nice thing about the sprints is drivers are it's more encouraged to not run into other drivers because you still have the actual race ahead of you.
Right.
Needless to say, there are other problems that have a sprint, but that's one good thing if you need positives for your list.
Yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about the sprint race as a whole. I think, this sprint race was, I think, the best sprint race of the ones we've had so far in the last 2 years.
Oh, yeah, easily.
So, I don't know. I think it's cool to have something different every once in a while, but they're moving up to what? Are they doing 6 next year? Is that what they said? Or something like that. Maybe it's 3. I don't remember. I don't know. I think they should just do 1, and I think if they had it in Brazil, I think that'd be pretty good.
Yeah, just do this more.
Because the one last season in Brazil was also the best of the 3.
Yeah, just keep doing this exact race every year.
I think Brazil is a track that at least suits it better than others. Because you can actually overtake.
And it's towards the end of the season, so regardless, there's always going to be some battle for placement in the championships, whether it's for first or second.
Right. And so all the points, even the points you get.
Yeah.
The points you get in the sprint race are going to matter more, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
We've solved sprint races. Just do one.
Just do one in Brazil every year. There you go. So throughout the next few laps, Russell and Verstappen kind of battled each other, and Verstappen was able to keep him behind until lap 15 when Russell was finally able to pass Max into turn 4. On lap 19, Sainz was able to make his way past Verstappen as well. Max actually turned in on Carlos as he was passing him and ended up with damage on his front wing. So Verstappen kind of struggled for the rest of the race and dropped down past Hamilton. But that was at least towards the end of the race for him, so he didn't drop too much.
He went to go hang out with his good friend and buddy, Sergio Perez.
Yep. At the time, yeah.
They're such good friends.
Oh, yeah. Pictures taken moments before disaster. Anyway, let's just get to that before we... Anyway, results of the sprint race. Top 5 were Russell, Sainz, Hamilton, Verstappen, and Perez. 6 through 10 was Leclerc, Norris, Magnussen, Vettel, and Gasly. 11 through 15 was Ricciardo, Schumacher, Zhou, Bottas, and Tsunoda. And 16 through 20 was Stroll, Ocon, Alonso, Latifi, and Albon. Albon didn't finish the sprint race because he had... Well, I don't think they ever said what happened, but it looked like just a mechanical failure of some kind.
Yeah, and there were a couple changes from the sprint finish to the actual starting grid on Sunday.
Yep. Thanks for catching that, Ben. I completely forgot to mention that. Carlos Sainz got a 5-place grid penalty for taking a new power unit, and so he dropped from 2nd to 7th. Also, Tsunoda dropped to the back, I assume for a power unit change. I didn't actually see the specifics on that.
Did he get like a whole new floor, didn't he?
Oh, is that what it was?
I think it was.
I don't know. I think that's about it in terms of penalties. I don't see any other ones.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, that's basically the grid for the race. Was the finishing order of the sprint race, but then the penalties applied set the grid for the next race. So, getting into the Brazilian Grand Prix, both Mercedes had a good start from the front row and began to pull away from the field a little bit. On the first lap, Ricciardo tagged Kevin Magnussen into a right-hander, causing Kevin to go into a spin, and it ended up taking Ricciardo out with him. I mean, fair enough. Ricciardo can't really complain about that one too much.
No, that was, yeah. It was the first of many, penalties.
Yeah. On the safety car restart that followed that, because there was a safety car to clean up the two cars that were in the wall off the racing line. On the restart, Verstappen and Hamilton actually came together racing each other and damaged both of their cars. Max was actually forced to pit and Hamilton carried on. The stewards gave Max a 5-second penalty for this, which is controversial. That was the biggest racing incident I have ever seen in my life. But
yeah, I don't know where Verstappen would have gone except for off the track.
It's like they were talking in post-race, and Max was like, I had a feeling he wasn't going to leave space, but I was already there, and I had nowhere else to go.
Yeah, if he had braked, he would have just run into Hamilton's rear wheel.
Max was like literally 85% alongside of Lewis going into the right-hander in turn 2, and Lewis gave him absolutely no room, and somehow Max is penalized. So, I don't know. Max probably wouldn't have made the corner as much as he thought he would have, but at the same time, Lewis did not leave in like any space at all. So I think there's fault on both sides, and it should have been a racing incident.
Yeah, I agree.
So Max pit and Hamilton was able to carry on. But later on that same lap, Lando Norris tagged Charles Leclerc and sent him into a spin and into the wall. Luckily for him, Leclerc was able to continue after taking a pit stop to change his front wing.
I thought Leclerc was out of the race.
I thought so too. I was like, well, that sucks.
And then I saw him at the back. I was like, what? You're not supposed to be there.
Yeah, no, so there was like a yellow flag out, and then all of a sudden the track went green. I'm like, wait, did Leclerc keep going? I was like, what?
They had that crane on standby. They were ready. No, yeah. So that was a good job by Leclerc, I guess, to keep his car from being so bent that he couldn't get it back on track.
Yeah, absolutely. And he ended up actually making a pretty good race out of it.
Yeah.
So after that whole snafu, Hamilton dropped back after the damage, but quickly made his way back up to P3. Vettel made his way up to 5th by lap 18, driving like an absolute madman. I just love that Vettel's actually competitive at the end of the season.
Man, if only we had this from day one.
Yeah, if Aston Martin actually built a good car from
Imagine
the beginning.
if they had made a competitive car from the first race.
Oh man, if we saw like Aston Martin and Seb up there fighting where like Ocon and Bottas, in the championship, like Ocon, Norris, and Alonso.
I would have loved to see him just battling Alonso all season.
That would have been so much fun. Alonso and Vettel, yeah, that would have been great. But back to the race. On lap 45, Hamilton passed Perez for P2. On lap 52, Norris pulled to the side of the road with an engine failure, which caused the second safety car of the race. On lap 61, the race restarted, and there was quite a bit of movement in the midfield. There was for pretty much the whole race. It was hard to keep up with all of the movement going on. It was such a good race. On lap 63, Carlos Sainz passed Perez, and then the next lap, Leclerc passed Perez. So Perez's tires started falling off at the end of the race, and everyone behind him was on fresh softs. There was really not much he could do.
There's a lot of really good pit strategy and changes going on this race.
Oh, for sure. Lots of 3 and 4 stop races. It was pretty crazy.
I love seeing that.
For sure. At the end of the race, Verstappen made his way through the field. He ended up passing Perez on lap 67, and Red Bull promised Checo that they would have Max let him back by if he couldn't get past the cars in front of him. And that didn't happen.
Unfortunately, over the radio, they couldn't see Max Verstappen crossing his fingers behind his back.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it was... Well, we'll get into that in a little bit, in a second here. The fastest lap of the day went to George Russell, and driver of the day was Lewis Hamilton. And I actually agree with that driver of the day. I think it could have gone to Hamilton or Leclerc, and I would have been happy.
Yeah, or even Sainz had a pretty good race.
Yeah.
Because he started, 7th?
Well, he started, 7th, I think. But Leclerc was at the end of lap 7, he was in last place in the full pit stop down, and then he made his way all the way back up through the field to finish 4th.
That is fair, yeah.
So, but I think Hamilton was also deserving. He had damage on his car and got kind of tagged and sent backwards for quite a bit and made up a large deficit to his teammate in first, I should say. So the results of the race on the podium was Russell, Hamilton, and Sainz. 4th and 5th were Leclerc and Alonso. 6 through 10 was Verstappen, Perez, Ocon, Bottas, and Stroll. 11 through 15 was Vettel, Zhou, Schumacher, Gasly, and Albon. 16 and 17 rounding off the finishers were Latifi and Tsunoda, and then we had 3 DNFs. And it was Norris with an engine failure, and then Magnussen and Ricciardo crashed out.
Yeah, so I didn't realize that Tsunoda finished the race, because after that last restart, he's pretty much pulled over to the side of the track, letting everybody pass.
Yeah, well, he did that because it was such a weird situation. They let the lapped cars unlap themselves, but I think Tsunoda got halfway through the field before he stopped unlapping himself. I don't even know what happened. But he never actually passed the safety car, and so on the restart, he was already a full lap behind the other, air quotes, lapped cars, because he didn't actually pass the safety car. So there was literally no point in him continuing to race, so he just pulled over to the side on the restart to let the rest of the field lap him.
That's so weird.
It was kind of sad. It reminded me of Abu Dhabi last year when half the field didn't get to unlap themselves, and so their race was just over.
Yeah.
But that's another another story.
That horse has been so beat to death.
Yeah. So George Russell won his first race in Brazil this week.
Yep, I think it was pretty well deserved.
I'd say so too. I think he deserves a win. After the season he's had, he's finished in top 5 for most of the races that he's finished. He's ahead of Lewis Hamilton in the championship. He's kind of been Mercedes' consistent driver this season, so I think it's cool that he got his first win.
Yeah, I like to meme on him, but he's actually been doing pretty well.
Yeah. Verstappen made life more difficult for Perez next weekend. So, here's the deal. on the last lap, Verstappen was probably about 5 seconds ahead of Perez, and his team said, if you can't catch Alonso, slow down and let Perez pass for points in the championship. Verstappen basically said, I already told you before, I'm not doing that, and you know my reasons. So I stand by that. And he didn't let Perez pass.
Do you know what his reason was?
The rumor going around is that in Monaco, Sergio Perez, he had that crash in qualifying that put him on pole and denied Verstappen a chance to go for pole. And the rumor that I have heard is that Perez behind closed doors told Helmut Marko that he did that on purpose, and that got to Horner, and it eventually somehow got to Max, and so Max thinks that Checo crashed in Monaco, taking him off pole on purpose, and so that's why he did this, and that he said that after the race they talked about it and shook hands, and basically the sentiment I got from Max in the post-race interviews is now we're even.
Good Lord.
Because he said that if he can help Checo in the next race with the championship, that he's gonna. So, uh,
So
if
helpful.
I were,
He will help him the last race of the season when he's tied with Charles Leclerc.
yeah, it's
It's a bit
just
late
it
on that
feels
one.
childish from Max a little bit. I lost quite a bit of respect for Max actually after that.
Yeah.
It just seems like a really childish thing to do. I mean, come on. He's helped you so much, not even just last season, but this season. And yeah, it's like, I understand maybe you're upset at him for that, but he's done you a lot more than just the 2 solids or whatever.
Yeah, and Monaco is a long time ago. That's a long time to be waiting and holding that card in your pocket until
Right.
Brazil. And then you're like,
When
yes.
you've already won the championship, like, it doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah.
It just left such a bad taste in my mouth.
I can't even remember what I got for groceries last week, much less, Checo Perez definitely ruined my pole position in Monaco months ago.
Yeah. I don't know if that's the real reason. Like, I really hope that they can move past this, but man, if I was Checo, I would not be happy.
Yeah, and this is all unsubstantiated. None of this is actually coming from Red Bull or an official source, but
Yeah, this is kind of just reading between the lines of what Max was saying.
it does seem like something Max would do.
Yeah. So we'll see how that plays out in the coming weeks and months, and then if it bleeds into next season, I don't know. We'll see. This could be Checo's supervillain origin story.
This was Ricardo's plan all along.
Yeah, a lot of people I saw compared it to Multi 21 back with Vettel and Mark Webber in what was 2011 or 2012 or something, where basically the same situation. I think it was in Turkey it was either Turkey or Malaysia, one of the two. It's not on the calendar anymore. Where Webber was supposed to get past Vettel for the championship, basically the same situation, and Seb was like, Seb kind of played stupid instead of basically saying, I told you I'm not going to do that. He kind of just played dumb and said, oh, I got scared. I thought he was going to run into me, so I didn't let him by. I don't know. Same situation, and we saw what happened to Vettel's career after that, so we'll see if Max ends up winning like three more titles.
Yeah, and then goes to Aston Martin to win 0 races.
Yeah, who knows? What else do we have? Mercedes looks like the fastest car this weekend, I'd say.
Yeah, they've made huge gains even since the last couple races.
Yeah, they are definitely looking on top of it. And with the whole off season and them having more development time than Red Bull, not only because of Red Bull's penalty, but because they are finishing lower than them in the championship, I would not be surprised if we had another Hamilton-Verstappen fight for the title next season.
Or
with
Russell.
Possibly even Russell sprinkled in there. Yeah. And then Checo, if Checo can figure out the car, but that's a big if. And then, we'll see where Ferrari's at, but right now, Mercedes is looking quite a bit faster than Ferrari.
Yeah, and Ferrari still doesn't seem like a team that's mentally prepared to win a championship.
No, they had a strategy screw up in qualifying. Like, they can't go a weekend without some sort of mistake. They put Leclerc on wet tires when it was dry out. And it didn't turn out well.
Yeah. That's a bad idea.
So, Ferrari needs to evaluate their strategy team. I really don't think Binotto is the right guy for the job because he just keeps saying nothing's wrong.
No, you know how when you make a new sim in Sims 3, and they always think they're doing really good, but they'll spin around a whole bunch of times until they're starving, and then their house will burn down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they'll go to work the next day. That's kind of what Ferrari reminds me of. He's just a sim at this point, just kind of spinning in circles waiting for someone to actively click on him and take control.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it, Ben.
Thank you. I'm going to go make a sim really quick, actually.
to do it.
That looks like Bonota.
There you go. You got the Harry Potter glasses and everything. Yeah, not great from Ferrari. They did end up kind of rescuing the weekend a little bit, sort of, but at the same time, their primary rival Mercedes got a 1-2. So overall, kind of an L for Ferrari this weekend, but they've still got a decent lead. There's like 20 points or something like that. Let me see, what is it? 19 points. 19-point lead going into the last race of the season, so they do need to have both their cars finish, probably I'd say top 6 to make sure they secure that.
Yeah, if one of their cars DNFs and Mercedes gets 3rd or 4th or gets podiums, then...
yeah, it's going to be close.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had another Verstappen-Hamilton incident this race.
Mark one down on the calendar. Dear Diary, today Max and Hamilton had another collision.
Yep. Yeah, and in a post-race interview, Hamilton, when asked about the collision with Max, he was like, well, that's Max for you. Basically is what he said. I was like, oh, that's
classic Max.
Classic Max. I was like, man, you turned in on him. I don't know. But I don't know. It's no one's ever gonna take blame for stuff like that. It's just, oh, this was such a great race. So much happened.
Very different from Mexico.
Yes, Lance Stroll drove dangerously this weekend in the sprint race, especially. He just has this nasty habit of blocking people, which is illegal, and he keeps getting 10-second penalties for it.
He's trying so hard.
It's I don't know. It's like he didn't. I feel like he didn't used to do this. This feels new, but maybe not. I don't know.
Oh no.
He's gonna cause a massive accident someday if he keeps doing that. He's come close to causing 2 in the last 3 weeks. So.
Yeah, I feel like Stroll is one of those drivers who's actually gotten progressively worse the longer he's been in F1.
Yeah. He's always been, like, average at best.
Yeah, but I seem to remember when the cars were pink, he was actually doing pretty well.
Yeah, with the old regs, he, in that one season, I think it was 2020, where they had the pink Mercedes.
Yeah.
Where they got 4th because they had a 15-point deduction for copying Mercedes' car.
That's a penalty.
Which put them below McLaren. Huh?
I feel like that's a penalty I'd be willing to take if you're a Racing Point.
Right. So they ended up 4th in the championship behind McLaren because of that penalty. But they definitely had the 3rd fastest car that year. And Perez won a race, and Lance Stroll had a pole position in Turkey.
Right, that's what I was thinking.
Pretty much that was the highlight of his career.
Yeah, it's all been downhill from there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, his next teammate would be Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah, Sebastian Vettel, and then after that, his next teammate is Fernando Alonso, who's just not going to take any BS from him.
I'm so excited.
That's going to be fun. I'm kind of, I don't know. I wonder how long Stroll's going to stay in the sport. Like,
what if he learns?
He probably could forever, but
yeah. What if he learns from Fernando Alonso? Fernando Alonso takes an unlikely wing over this young Canadian man and teaches him to be an incredible driver and maybe stop blocking people during races.
Or, on the other hand, Alonso and Stroll crash into each other multiple times next season. Stroll gets disillusioned, wants to win races, and so goes to like a GT3 series or something.
Yeah, or is found dead in a ditch.
Seems
Fernando
unlikely.
Alonso's had enough.
When Fernando snaps. Yeah. Speaking of Fernando Alonso snapping, Alonso and Ocon are not getting along this season. Ocon is like, has he had a teammate that he's actually gotten along with. I think Daniel Ricciardo, they did okay together.
They did pretty okay together.
For the one season they were together.
Yeah, that's about it, actually. Never
mind. But yeah, Alonso and Ocon are hitting each other. Perez and Ocon hate each other all the time. Who else was his teammate before that? Was that it?
I can't remember. I'm so young.
I don't remember. But he's got beef with almost every driver on the grid, it feels like. Verstappen hates him. Gasly hates him. He's just, I don't know, man. He drives dirty. That's the thing. Especially with his teammates. He just drives so filthy.
Yeah. Yeah, although this race, he did keep his nose clean. And I kind of understand him wanting to pass Vettel before he let Alonso by. I wonder if he would have if he hadn't gotten multiple radio messages saying, hey, do this. No, you need to do this. No, Ocon, you need to do this. He's like, fine, I'll do it, but...
Yeah, I don't know, man. He kind of kept his nose clean. He had that one in the sprint race where he shoved Alonso wide, and then Alonso hit the back, hit him in the on the pit straight.
Oh yeah.
But that was more Alonso's fault. I mean, he said Ocon weaved a little bit, but it wasn't enough to where it was like dangerous, I'd say. I mean, Alonso had plenty more space on the right to move, and he just didn't. So I think that was a little more Alonso's fault, and Alonso ended up getting a penalty for it. So
yeah, man, next season is going to be so much fun.
Yeah, I'm excited for next season. I think we're going to have another really close championship fight between Verstappen and the two Mercs. It'll be interesting to see. I almost wonder if the two Mercedes are going to get in each other's way. So, well, I don't know.
More drama. 2016.
Oh,
it's
yeah, bring back the Hamilton and Rosberg rivalry, but it's Hamilton and Russell this time. Ooh. I don't know. Just knowing George Russell, I could see that happening. I could see it getting toxic really quickly.
Yeah, after beating Lewis Hamilton, potentially. Well, probably at this point.
Yeah, most likely.
In the championship. Oh.
Actually, yeah, so he has beat Lewis Hamilton unless the only way Lewis Hamilton beats him is by winning and getting fastest lap in the next race with George DNFing. or getting 0 points, I should say.
So you're saying there's a chance?
There is a chance. It's a slim chance, though. Sergio Perez and Leclerc have secured at the very least third place, so Russell is now fourth at most. Just looking at the championship standings here. Other than that, not much has changed. Leclerc did jump over Perez. They're actually tied on points right now, but Leclerc has more wins this season, so he takes second place in the championship. Nothing has changed in the Constructors' Championship. But yeah, that's kind of F1 for this week. We'll move on to the overtake of the week. Max Verstappen is who I gave it to because he had a double overtake on Ocon and Bottas into turn 1 at Interlagos.
Yeah, the classic Red Bull late break.
Yeah, he made it look pretty easy.
Yeah, I almost missed it. I had to go back, and I was like, wait a minute. There are two cars there.
Yeah, it was a pretty clean overtake. So congrats to Max on that. Pit Stop Championship. I do have to put an asterisk on this one. Motorsport.com has not uploaded the pit stop data for the between the timing lines yet, so I had to improvise and go with my secondary source, which gives you the stationary box time. So things may change a little bit once I actually get the standings we're going to use, but this is kind of a general idea of who ended up where. We had Perez with the fastest pit stop this time around. Shocker there. At 2.04 seconds. Absolute banger of a pit stop.
Yep.
Second place was Tsunoda at 2.1 seconds. Also really good. And Gasly at 2.17 seconds. Then we had Sainz and Leclerc and Latifi, Stroll, Albon, Ocon, and Alonso rounding off the points. Really good pit stops from Ferrari too at 2.18 and 2.23. They've kind of fallen off on pit stops this season, so for them to be up there again is pretty good for them.
Yeah, especially since they're doing so many pits this race. They had to be on it. They could lose seconds. Or they could have lost seconds if they had gotten it off. But, went off without a hitch.
Yep. So I don't think anything has really changed in the pit stop championship. Nothing super notable, at least. I forgot to change the order again. So Tsunoda passes Gasly to take P3, and Leclerc passes Norris to take P6. Doesn't look like too much past that. I think Stroll moves up a spot. That looks like about it. So let's go on to our predictions for the Brazilian Grand Prix. I think you went first last time, so I'll go first this time. Top 5, to remind everybody, was Russell, Hamilton, Sainz, Leclerc, and Alonso. My guesses were Verstappen, Leclerc, Sainz, Hamilton, and Perez, with Vettel as my dark horse.
There's a little bit of green in there, I see.
Yeah, I got Sainz right in P3. That was it, though.
Better than me. I had Hamilton, Verstappen, Russell, Perez, and Sainz, with Zhou as my dark horse. I took a swing, and I absolutely missed. Swing and a miss. Zhou didn't do too bad. He got 12th, but still didn't pick up any points or anything. I mean, honestly, the Hamilton guess wasn't a bad guess, and if he didn't crash with Verstappen at the beginning of the race, he probably would have had a good shot to win. So fastest lap went to George Russell this week. I guessed Leclerc. And I guessed Verstappen.
Okay. And driver of the day went to Lewis Hamilton, and that is what we both guessed.
To the surprise of absolutely no one.
Yep. Lewis Hamilton got driver of the day. I would say pretty deservedly so. And yeah.
Even if it wasn't Brazil, he's definitely still earned that one.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so moving on to our Abu Dhabi Grand Prix predictions for next week. I'll go first on my guesses. I'm going to say Hamilton wins this one, followed by Russell, Leclerc, Sainz, and Perez. And then my dark horse is Valtteri Bottas.
Who's been having some very good races recently.
Yeah. I didn't put Verstappen in my top 5.
I noticed
I don't know what's going on.
Bold.
I don't know what's going on in his head, but I feel like there might be a big crash coming up.
Checo's living there rent-free right now.
Yeah. So I am predicting a Max Verstappen DNF in Abu Dhabi.
Oh.
Let's hear your predictions, Ben. I almost called you Max.
I'm not going to try to do a Max Verstappen impression. I had Verstappen getting pole. I don't think that he will DNF in Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
Followed by fair. Russell, who's been having very good races. Perez, who I'm assuming Verstappen won't let by, and I'm assuming Russell won't let him by either. Leclerc and Hamilton in 5th. And then I have Vettel as my dark horse. I really hope he gets just a surge of 2012 Red Bull energy and just screams past the grid.
Yeah. I want to see Vettel doing donuts at the end of the race.
Yes.
That's what I want. I want Vettel and Ricciardo and I guess Max, since he won the championship. But we'll see. I don't think they did donuts last year, but last year I feel like donuts would have been a little inappropriate.
Maybe a little bit. I want Ricciardo, Vettel, and Latifi. All the drivers who aren't coming back for next season.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Latifi.
Yeah,
Latifi. How
those
could I
three
forget about him?
Doing donuts to celebrate a successful season.
Yeah. So fastest lap prediction, I went with Leclerc.
And I went with Russell. That is his purpose, although this last race in Brazil does prove that he can get pole.
Yes. Driver of the day, I went with Sebastian Vettel.
And I went with Daniel Ricciardo. Both drivers who like we mentioned, will no longer be there in 2023.
I think we did that for the same reason with a different driver.
Yep.
Yep. All right, Ben. So that's all we got for race talk this week. Do you have any words of wisdom for our wonderful listeners?
Oh boy, do I. Okay. I went camping this weekend. It is rapidly approaching winter. I camped in the Columbia Gorge, which, if you're not familiar, is very cold. So my words of wisdom to you today are dress warmly, and definitely don't be afraid to overpack if you can, because when it gets down to 26 degrees, you will not be regretting that you brought an extra coat, 2 extra pairs of socks, and 3 pairs of gloves.
Awesome. Good stuff. Avoid the hypothermia out there, people. It's going to be a cold winter, especially in Europe, from what I hear.
Oh.
But let's not get into that. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening to this episode.
No, keep going.
All right. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening to this episode of RevHang. If you enjoyed it, leave a like or rating on the platform you listen on. It really helps us out. If you'd like to follow our thoughts and opinions on the motorsport world, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at RevHang Media. If you have any thoughts or questions about racing or even about us, post a tweet at #RevHangPodcast, and we may feature your question on the next show. We'd absolutely love to interact with you guys. You can follow Ben on Instagram at BenjiMeetsWorld and or myself at 2n_squared. While you're at it, go check out our website, RevHang.com, where you can find a calendar of upcoming races, updated standings for the racing series we talk about, along with our often extremely inaccurate predictions for the F1 season. We will return in a week to talk about the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, but until then, I have been Nathan.
Please come back if you want to hear more about European nuclear winters and global warming. I've been Ben.
Thanks for hanging out, guys.
See you guys.